Hello and welcome to the latest video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scouts. We are looking ahead to Gameweek 22. We have the small matter of some cup games before that, so our plans may change, but this time we're focusing on the underachievers on the goals and assists imminent tables. What we'll do is we'll explain a bit more about these tables and these stats, which comes from the Fantasy Football Scout members area, and they help predict future returns. Well, that's the aim anyway. We'll look at assists imminent table, as I said, and we've also got some added data that we're doing, how many weeks they've been on the table, whether they potentially will move off and hopefully score. We'll also take some questions at the end as well, so get thinking about some questions, and then at the end when I ask for them, put them in the live chat and then we'll go through them. And we'll also reveal our Game Week 22 early plans, whether there's a double game week or not, and whether our players survive the cup games. My name is Joe, and joining me to unearth some under the radar gems is Tom Freeman, Fantasy Football Scouts Deputy Editor. Tom, welcome. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Joe. It's been nice to take a bit of a break this week, and we've obviously got the FA Cup starting again tonight with City Arsenal, which is pretty tasty.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow, which you just alluded to, we'll get a bit of clarity on Game Week 22 and if Man United and Leeds will double. So, yeah, should be good.
Definitely. And welcome all those that are joining us in the live chat as well. FPL Tic Tacs, Christopher, Melv, Rodro, Austin, and many more. Thanks so much for joining us. Look forward to meeting more of you during the show as we go on. And also get your questions in your heads and ready for at the end. Do remember to press that like button, and do remember to subscribe if you're not already. Remind your friends and neighbours and relatives and everyone else to like and subscribe. Yeah, it's good. Tom, you mentioned about the break as well. But we still talk about FPL, but we've got these cup games, so all a bit up in the air. So remind us what is the situation, because there's a double game week in Game Week 22, but there might not be. So it might be helpful to explain
absolutely. that. I mean, it looks pretty likely. What we need to happen tomorrow in the FA Cup is Man United and Leeds in their respective games to avoid replays. If they avoid replays, that essentially creates the gap, which will house this fixture, which you can, I think, see possibly at the moment on the screen, the Man United Leeds match, which will form a double game week. United have got Reading, Leeds. I think it was, I can't remember if they're playing Accrington Stanley or Boreham Wood, one of those two. So it's likely they'll both go through. But if there's any surprises, any draws, then it's no longer a double game week.
Okay. So with all that in mind, we're looking at the goals imminent and assists imminent tables. So the goals imminent table, for those that don't know, it looks at players who could be due a goal or score more. So it's got a minimum of 10 shots with a maximum of 1 goal over the last 4 matches they have played. And that's important because there's double game weeks and blank game weeks at the moment in Fantasy Premier League. And so you can't do the last 4 game weeks because it's uneven, because it wouldn't be fair, because some have played 4, some have played 5 and so on. So that's why we do it like that. I've thrown in a bit of expected stats because, we move with the times. So expected delta is the difference between what they should have scored and what they actually scored. So larger the negative number, larger the underachievement, and in theory, larger the chance of them getting returns in future. So there are 3 main outcomes to these tables, and that's the same for the assists imminent table as well. If you score, or if you notch returns over those 4 matches, you leave the table in a good way. Underlying stats drop off, you leave the table in a bad way. So they drop off and you don't score or assist. Or you could be forever stuck there, and we call that Nathan Redmond, basically. He's historically been there for many, many years. So what we do is we're going to, as we do each week, we're going to look to see how we got on in the previous week. Okay, so I've got the goals imminent table for the previous week here. We've included the final 2 games for double game week 20 in this as well. So before people say, oh, hey, a minute, Fernandez didn't score in game week 21. We came out, this table was done before those double game week matches. So we've included those in there, which is good, really, because we got loads of blanks this time. Solanke didn't play. De Bruyne got assists, but no goal. Bailey, your man there, Tom at Villa. He
Yeah.
didn't return. Neves didn't return. Havertz didn't return. Could have done though. And Son didn't return in terms of a goal, but he did get an assist. Gibbs White as well. He's now potentially injured as well, but he did not fulfil his promise. Fernandes was Manchester United was the one that helped us out there. So Tom, looking at these ones here, I mean the likes of Neves probably going to stay here forever or just drop off because they don't score. But some of the others could have scored, I think.
Yeah, well, Bailey had a couple of chances either side of half time against Southampton. We've spoken about Bailey quite a lot on these videos, Joe, and if he's in a confident mood, he got the goal against Leeds, but he does sometimes lack that clinical kind of edge. And that was missing at the weekend because I think he had 4 shots against Southampton. So getting into good positions, just failing to score. Havertz had the ball in the net as well, didn't he? But it was ruled out for VAR at Anfield. But then there's a couple of players underwhelmed. I don't think De Bruyne and Son between them had a shot in those games. So, I mean, De Bruyne is all about the assist this year. We know that anyway. But Son, with further competition being added with Danjuma coming in on loan, Richarlison back from injury, he's looking like a bit of a no-go at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, good for Fernandes. And that is telling as well that he actually fulfilled on that promise there because if Manchester United have a double game week, it's a very favourable double game week, 2 home games. And so he will be in demand. So people will be very much interested in him. Let's have a look at the assists imminent table. So this is looking a bit better. So this is now, let's have a look at with the assists imminent. This is a minimum of 7 chances created, but no more than 1 assist over their last 4 matches they have played. So this is sorted by minus expected assist delta as well. So that gives an idea of underperforming. So this is what we did last time. So we're just seeing how we did last time. De Bruyne, he fulfilled on that promise. He often does. He often appears on this table. He often drops off because he's assisted. Martinelli was due to assist but didn't. He's on set pieces, corners, etc. for Arsenal. Mount as well, he did not deliver on his promise. Nor did Ward-Prowse, but he had a goal ruled out. Rodri, who was the surprise assist imminent entry, actually did assist. So I feel we're quite pleased about that. That was in the final game of double game week 20. Neto didn't. Kane did, which is good to see. Alexander-Arnold didn't because Liverpool didn't and Eze didn't. So looking at this lot here, any of those that didn't assist that you think could have done? And I mean, De Bruyne is of great interest there because especially with a double game week in 23 for Manchester City.
Yeah, I think De Bruyne, Trippier and Fernandes, they're the 3 creators this year, aren't they? The main creators in FPL, that's what they're going to offer. They're going to continually produce assists. So, yeah, like you say, De Bruyne will sometimes be on here, but it won't take long because he'll drop off soon enough. Martinelli's really interesting. There's a lot of chat about Arsenal at the moment, isn't there, Joe? They've got Everton next, and then they've got this double. A lot of people are considering moving Martinelli to Odegaard or Nketiah or Saka or an alternative. I'm not too worried about Martinelli. I've watched all of their games recently. I just think he's been a little bit unfortunate. I think his stats have been pretty similar to those guys. And 3 blanks in a row, it doesn't look great, but transfers are pretty precious. They certainly are in my team at this moment in time. So I'm not considering a sideways switch. I might complement him with another player, but it wouldn't surprise me if he returns over the next couple of weeks. So, I think assist, he's on set pieces, like you say, so there's always a good chance of that with aerial targets like Gabriel and Saliba to aim for. Ward-Prowse, he had the goal disallowed, didn't he? They changed formation against Villa in the second half. They went to a back 3, but he was still advanced. He was still high up the pitch. So I think in this current kind of way that Nathan Jones is playing him, I think he'll do pretty well, to be honest. And Kane is on there. With Kane, we know what we're getting. It's goals, it's assists. So, I mean, I think a lot of people might sell him this week with with maybe others demanding attention. I think you've got Kane, haven't you, Joe?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll hear about that later.
We'll hear about that later, yeah, because I'm going to hatch a plan to keep him.
Okay, good. Yeah, I can understand why. I mean, he wasn't great at Fulham, but he has that habit of popping up and scoring, doesn't
It's
he?
something FPL General often says about whenever Kane scores or assists, he always puts a post up saying Kane always finds a way. I always think, it always goes around my head, that phrase. No matter what happens with Spurs, how awful they can be, Kane will find a way.
Well,
that's
Fulham were in the ascendancy when he scored, weren't they? I owned Pereira and Mitrovic for that one, and all of the attacking play was going in that direction. And then looked up again, and Kane somehow scored an absolutely great goal out of nothing, really. And that's what he does.
That's what he does. He's done all his career, and that's why he is breaking records and will break more records as he goes on with his career, because he's just simply a world-class striker. And that's the kind of player you want in your fantasy team. I think going back to Martinelli, I think, you make that key point there. We've got the double game week coming up in 22, possibly for Manchester United and Leeds. Game week 23, we've definitely got a double game week with Arsenal and Manchester City. I can't be making a luxury move of moving Martinelli to Odegaard or Saka. I could possibly get one of those in to go with Martinelli, but I'm not. It's a luck. If you are in that position, do it. But it just seems. I mean, I've got other teams to look at. Basically.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Trossard coming in, it might eat into Martinelli's minutes a bit. I mean, I think Martinelli's first choice, but you might see substitutions at 75, 80 minutes like we did against Man United. But I think Martinelli is still a good option, especially for those who got him at 6 million at the start of the season.
Definitely. Okay, let's look at the main draw, the goals imminent table going into game week 22 as is. So let's have a look at there. Who is top of this? Well, I'll run through this and then I'll get your views on some of them as well, whichever ones the key ones here. Darwin Núñez is back on this as well. He dropped off last time because it was last 4 matches played, and initially we'd only done at the beginning, we just did a sort of a quick early post-World Cup one. Last week, we reverted back to last 4, which is how we're going to do. Last 4 matches all the way through now. That was a problem for Darwin Núñez in terms of this table because he, unfortunately, was quite good before the World Cup. So he scored a brace. So that counted him off the table. So he was off the table in a good way there, but he's back on again because his expected goal delta was what he should have scored. I mean, he's getting on for nearly 3 goals he should have scored in the last 4 matches. And he scored none. Let's start with him because, I mean, for the podcast version, we will go through the rest of these. Everyone can see them on screen for the video version, but we'll go through them. Let's just stop there. Darwin Núñez. Can we go there, Tom?
I'm not sure if you would go there now. I think some people probably own him. And
I mean, that's all keep. Can we keep him still?
Well, it depends. I mean, you might... In FPL, the doubles demand attention a lot of the time, and it might be tricky to hold on to a Liverpool now. I've got no problems with it, given his price, 8.8 million. Yes, he's flattered to deceive so far, but like I said in, I think, previous videos, it wouldn't surprise me if he popped up and got a brace, whether that be against Wolves or Everton in the next 2, because they've got 2 pretty decent fixtures.
Yeah.
But he didn't start the last one. He wasn't deemed fit enough, but you would think now he will be by the time we come to the next game week. But, I mean, he's a hard watch, isn't he, when you've got him in your team, because I love to see my strikers get chances, but if they're all going wide, if they're all fluffed, it's no good to me. So, but I do value strikers getting chances, and it wouldn't surprise me if he's in my team again at some point during the season.
Yeah, I mean, he's almost breaking the table here with these figures. 7 big chances, all missed. That's huge. That's more than anyone else on this table. I think Harvey Barnes is the next nearest. We'll come to him in a bit. Shots on target, 7. Shots inside the box, 13. Lots of close range efforts. He's shooting from everywhere. And shots in total, 17. Weeks on the table. This is his first week, but if he's going to stay there for a long time if he doesn't score, because his underlying stats, I think, are forever going to be good. But will he deliver on them? It's tricky. I don't think we're looking at Liverpool at the moment. We're looking elsewhere, and we want to try and find value as well. Núñez 8.8 just isn't offering it. Mitrovic is next on the list. He makes an appearance finally. So he's had 3 big chances, missed a couple of them. He scored a goal. That's why he's on this table. Shots on target, just 2. 11 shots in total over the last 4 matches, 9 inside the box. So lots of close range efforts, just 2 on target. That's pretty poor First week on the table. Yeah, he could be carrying an injury as well. I mean, I've got him in my team, and I'm looking to offload. But am I right to do that?
Yeah, he hasn't quite looked on it these past couple of games, has he? He obviously was a bit unfortunate with that penalty when it got disallowed, but generally he hasn't looked that involved. But the good thing is for Fulham, after they play Chelsea, well, Chelsea isn't a terrible game these days anyway, but after Chelsea, they have a nice little run where they take on, I think, Forest, and there's a game against Wolves shortly after that. So I think Mitrovic is a fine hold. I probably will hold him. But I think if you want to sell and you want to move to somebody like Nketiah or something like that, I think that's fine too.
Yeah.
I mean, Mitchell, he's a good player and he will score goals. I'm sure of it. But like you say, he's carrying this little niggle, which seems to be not kind of flaring up to keep him out of games, but it's obviously there. It's obviously aware of it. So yeah, I think either's fine. I think you can sell him. I think you can hold him. I'm not. I think you can do both really.
Okay, it's a home game next for Newcastle against West Ham, and by coincidence, Wilson is now on this table. First week on the table, and just behind him is Cher, the defender at Newcastle. So Wilson has had 2 big chances, missed them both. Cher has had 3, missed them all. Wilson's had 5 shots on target, Cher 2. So Cher's had the same number of shots on target the last 4 matches as Mitrovic. He's a defender. Shared 9 shots in the box. Wilson 10. 11 shots in total for Wilson and 10 for Cher. These are good. These are great figures for Cher there. But Wilson as well. Now I've a little bit more faith in Wilson. If he's fit, I think he'll score. But it's a good fixture for Newcastle. So I mean, people might not want to get a Newcastle player in because they might be blanking in 25. But nevertheless, good to see Newcastle. They're going to fulfil on their promise of attacking returns as well as clean sheets, do you think?
Well, they haven't scored many since the restart. They've missed a lot of big chances. It's not quite clicking for them, but I think it will come for them. But the FPL thing, like you just said then, Joe, is that they might blank in game week 25.
Yeah.
If they progress to the League Cup final, they're already 1-0 up against Southampton, so you would expect them to. They're going to blank, so it's very risky to start bringing Newcastle players into your team. Yet a home tie against West Ham, we always have this, and we miss out on points because we know this, don't we? The casual manager will probably think, oh, that's a good fixture. Go and get Wilson. He scores a brace. Happy days. We're all thinking, oh, we've got to hold back on that. But it's a good fixture. I do think Newcastle will turn it round. And after, I think they play Bournemouth away as well. So another really good fixture. But for tuned-in managers, it's very difficult to make.
Because we're looking 3 game weeks ahead. And yeah, as you said, we're going to miss all those points. Like I've been missing, say, Tony's points because I've been waiting for some potential ban that may never arise, and because I'm being too engaged is costing us here. Solanke is next on the list at Bournemouth. Now he's potentially injured.
He's got an injury.
So we're going to sort of skirt over him there, and I don't think many there. But if you want to, if he looks like he's fit, I mean, I guess he's 5.6. He could be an enabler, but yeah, if he's not fit, but still on there because he might be coming back. Next up is Harvey Barnes at Leicester. Intriguing differential. He always shoots a lot. I mean, those Sky managers like myself will know for your shots bonus, he's your man because he just can't stop shooting. Often on target, but often a bit rubbish. They're often sort of soft, but that's what he does. Really, he's not really a striker. He is that winger. So he's 6.7. He's had 5 big chances, which is a hell of a lot. Only Darwin Núñez has had more. He's missed 4 of them. He's had 4 shots on target, which is double Mitrovic. And he's had 10 shots inside the box. He can't stop shooting inside the box. And so that's pretty much the bulk of his 11 shots there. An intriguing differential on the goals inventory. He's exactly the kind of player that I expect will score in Gameweek 22. What do you think?
Yeah, I like Harvey Barnes a lot. I've always liked him as a player. He's really direct. Like you say, he's got this kind of shoot on sight policy. And it sometimes is wayward, but as FPL managers, you want your players to be shooting. You don't care if he misses them. You want him to be taken. As long as he does get a few returns, it's not Darwin levels where he's missing everything. As long as he gets a few returns, we're happy. But I like him a lot. And they've obviously got Maddison coming back as well, which is really key to Leicester. The only problem is the fixtures. Now, I think they're obviously away at Villa. next, and that's a week on Saturday. I think it'll be quite a close game, and then they've got a tough run after that. So I do think that Harvey Barnes will come onto the radar again before the end of the season with James Maddison.
Yeah,
but I don't think now's the time. But I do think that he could get something at Villa.
Yeah, definitely. So his expected goal delta, so what he should have scored, he has scored once in the last 4 matches. He should have scored pretty much again. So he should have had 2 goals, according to that. And by the way, Mitrovic, his expected goal delta is 1.74. So he should have scored a couple of goals over that time, according to the expected stats machines out there. Gibbs White, now he is injured, but we don't know the extent of the injury, but it's not looking great for his prospects in 22. Nevertheless, he's had no big chances, but he has had 4 shots on target, so that's why he's got an expected goal delta of 0.75, so that's sort of getting on for nearly a goal he should have scored. And 12 shots, not bad, 5 inside the box, so he's shooting a lot, shooting from distance, but they're not, whilst accurate, they're not considered great, and they're not considered big chances or hitting that expected goal delta. And he's been on the table for a couple of weeks. He's in danger of sort of staying here, hovering around. He's getting Nathan Redmondy, do you think?
I like Gibbs White. I think he's a really good player, and I like him because he's got a bit of assist threat too. I thought he looked good against United in the Carabao as well earlier this week. But yeah, he's got this injury. I think to go there, you probably need a double later on in the season.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't mind doing that. And as a differential, I think he's pretty good. But yeah, we've obviously got to monitor that injury. And Brennan Johnson was a bit wayward with his shooting as well for Forest the other night, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, let's see. Maybe further on in the campaign.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, one for hold, especially because as Michael in the live chat's pointing out, and we have as well, currently with an injury, so we don't know the extent to that. Next up, Havertz. 7.8. As you said earlier, Tom, he could have scored, but VAR ruled it out. 3 big chances, missed them all. He has scored once. He's had 5 shots on target. He's expected goal delta of 0.68. 11 shots inside the box, and that's all his shots. 11 shots, all of them at close range, half of them on target. These are really good stats, actually. So given the new. If he stays in the team with Potter, given Chelsea have bought like everyone who's any good in the world at the moment, so much so that I believe that the powers that be have changed the rules over financial fair play because of Chelsea. But nevertheless, if he can stay in there, he's got a lot of players that going for goal. So he could do well.
I quite like Havertz in that role. I think he's first choice, and I think we're going to see a different Chelsea in the coming weeks once Felix comes back from suspension and Mudryk settles into the team. He looked lively at Anfield. Yeah. So I think those 3 in attack. And Chelsea's underlying numbers, they are moving in the right direction again under Potter. Very, very slowly, but they've looked okay these past couple, 2 or 3 games. So I think once they get everybody back fit, Reece James coming back, Ben Chilwell, players like that, I think we're going to see a very different Chelsea and a lot of value, and Havertz I would include in that as well.
Okay, and then bringing up the rear, Bailey. We spoke a bit about him. 3 weeks on the table, that is getting towards Nathan Redmond. But interestingly, he's been moving down the table. So he's had 1 big chance, he's missed it. He's had 3 shots on target. He's expected to have scored half a goal. I don't know how that's achieved with half a ball, perhaps. Just about almost crosses the line.
He could do it, I'm sure. So.
Yeah. And so 11 shots, 8 close range, but not many on target there. 3 weeks on the table. He has moved down. I think since we've been doing this, Bailey's been gradually moving from a second, third to right, and now he's at the bottom of the table. So I think he's going to drop off next time if he doesn't score. If he scores, he's going to drop off anyway, but I think he might drop off for a bad reason. Just simply drop off, and other players will be more imminent than him, or his stats might not just be good enough. Bailey, I think we've sort of spoken about him. 4.5 though, I think, if you need an enabler, he's pretty good.
Yeah.
for that
I think
price.
so. I think alongside Pereira, you've obviously got the cheap Brighton boys as well, like Solly Marsh as well, who are just a bit above and probably have a little bit more potential. But he's playing every week under Emery, which is really important for a 4.5, and he's playing up front, so he will get chances. There is talk of us signing a new player to fill in that role. Obviously, the window slams shut next week, so keep an eye on that. But if we don't, then I think Bailey looks pretty good for the second half of the season.
Given they've signed Duran, my dream is that they score another player called Duran, so they have Duran up front. But that's just my,
I think he's one for the few. I think he might come on for Bailey, but I certainly don't see him starting ahead of him for a while. So but yeah, let's see. Obviously, Ings has gone to West Ham.
Yeah,
is injured already.
Yeah,
and we might get another one in.
You mentioned the Brighton players as well. So last week I was trumping up March. He promptly
missed a great chance though.
Yeah, and he sort of slipped and sort of hit the ball against his other foot, and so but that was considered a more of an expected goal opportunity than Matoma's outrageous worldie. So it was Matoma, round one to Matoma, definitely. I still think March is a great option, but yeah, it's hard to persuade anyone not to get Matoma. And also last week I was saying they're both good, they're both brilliant, because Matoma looks so good. I mean, how do you argue? I mean, the eye test is so, I've never seen an eye test so appealing for a player, for quite some time.
When you see a player dribbling like that and kind of gliding down the wing, you just want them in your team, don't you? And you've got Solly Marsh on the other wing, who's probably getting the better chances, but there's just like you say, there's something which draws you to that player.
Yeah, it's difficult to do that. But anyway, they're both great options still. But I wouldn't persuade anyone not to go Matoma, obviously. But do get March, he's very good. So let's move on to the assist imminent table. So assist imminent. We have Trippier. So we had a question in the live chat, not in the live chat, in the just in the comments after the show last week. Why isn't Trippier there? Because he wasn't assisting, and it was because this is sorted by expected assist delta, which is the expected stats decree their chances. The amount of chances they have will lead, expected to assist from them, and none of Trippier's were. So Trippier's got here 21 chances created the last 4. He's had 32 corners, which is more than double anyone else, or almost double anyone else. No goals, no assists, 23 successful crosses, which is more than double anyone else on this table. First week on the table. Basically, something happened last week to mean that the amazing number of chances he's getting each week, the expected delta stats were saying, okay, right, this is it. You are expected to assist now. Yeah. So Trippier's, he must be nearly 100% ownership, amongst active managers. This means that he really is captainable, because if you're looking at clean sheets, this is suggesting that he's also going to get those attacking returns as well.
Yeah, and because he's creating so many chances, he's so good for bonus as well. We saw him he got booked, didn't he, at Selhurst Park in a 0-0, still came out with 3 bonus because of that creativity. I think he's got bonus in 9 consecutive matches now, 9 matches in a row, which is unbelievable. And there's a good chance he beats Robertson's all-time defender record, which he got in, I think, 2018-19. So, yeah, we talk about captaining defenders. I've never been one of those managers who's done it that often. I think I might have captained Trent once when he was really kind of doing well week in, week out. But generally, I kind of try to avoid it a bit. But it's hard to argue against it when you see the numbers, isn't it, Joe?
Yeah.
And it just depends on what type of manager you are, I guess. Yeah. So certainly nothing wrong with it. They've got West Ham at home next, who don't travel particularly well, who don't score a lot of goals away from home, and then they've got Bournemouth. So they kind of, if you're looking at that, they've got 2 good fixtures next where you could do it. But then again, they're up against doublers, and something tells me everybody's going to be captain a double game week player over the next 2. So.
I think this is one, if there isn't a double game week in game week 22, it is tempting. It's very, very tempting. I will at least have my vice captain on him if there's no double, because he is assured of points. With this as well, this means there'll be attacking return. This could be huge. Next up, Martinelli. Also, really impressive stats. 11 chances created, 14 corners he's taken. And bearing in mind, Arsenal are very good at set pieces. He's scored already once in the last 4 matches, and he's assisted once in the last 4 matches. So this table suggesting there's more. He's the second week on the assist imminent table, and he's still at the top. Only Trippier. He's not dipping down the table. He's not falling away because of the stats. He's only behind Trippier in terms of potential to get an assist from those who haven't already assisted lots in the last 4 matches. Expected assist delta, he should have got 1.43, so he's 1.43 under his assists. So he should have got much more. But yeah, we've spoken about him. We're gonna keep him, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Points won't be far away from Martinelli and that team, and I can understand why people are kind of looking at Odegaard fondly and Saka because and Nketiah, they've been returning. But if you look at the underlyings, they've all been pretty similar over the past 3 games. And the worry is that you switch, and you say, "Oh, I want Odegaard," and then suddenly Martinelli gets that brace as soon as you make the move. And I think what the sensible thing to do is to complement Martinelli with one of those players rather than doing a direct switch.
Yeah, definitely. So I've certainly got my eye on. I've only got 2 Arsenal players myself. I've certainly got my eye on another one. Either midfielder or attacker, but more of that a bit later. Next up, Ward-Prowse. We mentioned the goal scoring ability that he's got as well, but we forget his assisting ability. 15 corners, 10 chances created. He's scored 3 goals, so no assists, but just 3 goals. So maybe he's now a goal machine. But he's clearly, according to the underlying stats here, he should have got at least an assist. 10 successful crosses. That's pretty good. Once again, he's like Tony or Wilson or Ward-Prowse. We're just going to ignore him, aren't we? And less engaged managers are just going to get him.
For so long, Ward-Prowse has been a bit of a no-go. If you look at his points tally at the end of the season, it's always pretty good, but he's very bitty with his returns. He feels like the kind of player prior to this where you needed to get him and just hold on to him. And obviously, it's a really difficult price point because a lot of differentials pop up at that price point where you want to switch to. But now in this kind of new role, if it does stick, I think we maybe need to approach him a little bit differently. I don't think now's the time to move for him. But certainly in game week 25, game week 26, I think Southampton's fixtures clear a little bit. Dependent on doubles, what we've got going on in our teams, he might become an option. I mean, he's cheap, he's on penalties, he's on set pieces, he's playing an advanced role. There's quite a lot to like there.
I know the sort of people, but my word, there's 300 of you now watching. Welcome all of those. I didn't welcome you earlier because there weren't so many of you then. But I was going to say that us managers, you lot there in the live chat, and us, when there's a double for Southampton, double game week for Southampton, that's when we're all going to be moving on Ward-Prowse. So if that doesn't happen, we'll never have him. And that's just the way it will be. And we'll miss out. We'll miss out on all these points. There are 3 goals there. He's got last 4 matches. No assists, but plenty more. Let's move on to Mount then at Chelsea. 7.4 now. He's gone down in price. 8 chances created. 7 corners. No goals. 1 assist. Should have had more. Should have had probably another assist. 3 successful crosses. That's not... Bearing in mind, Trippier, 23 successful crosses last 4. Ward-Prowse, 10. Mount 3. That's not a lot, is it? I expect to see him move down this table, really. But I mean, do you think he'll stay in the team since Chelsea have bought everyone else?
I think so. I think they're going to. Well, saying that, it's quite hard to know what they're going to do when James and Chilwell are going to come back. Are they going to revert to like a wing-back system, which is what the formation which will probably get the best out of them? But certainly at the moment, in this kind of 4-3-3, Mount feels secure. He's a Chelsea through and through, isn't he? And I think Potter will want to keep him in the team if he can. But I think there's better options than Mount about at the moment, even at Chelsea. We spoke about Havertz. Madrid come in and look at the weekend and look lively. So I wouldn't be looking at Mount now. He hasn't quite done enough for me.
More to come from Kulusevski as well. He scored. So I mean, I've sort of gone up and then down a bit in the rankings, but overall the last 2 weeks I'm up. And partly due to this guy, because no one owns him. 7.9, Kulusevski. He's been injured for ages. He's been knocking around in my team for God knows how long. He's had only 3 corners, but he has scored. A couple of successful crosses. I mean, these aren't great underlying stats here, and this is probably why I'm going to remove him, even though he is on this table here. But I anticipate his stats to go down a bit. I'm not sure. Well, I mean, what would you? I mean, he's not in your team, is he? But I mean, what would you do as a Kulusevski?
No, I think his numbers aren't great, but I think that applies to Spurs across the board because they haven't created much since the restart. They scored 4 at Palace, but apart from in terms of actually creating chances, they're well bottom half of the table since we came back in game week 17. So look, they're moving in the transfer market. Danjuma's come in. I think there's rumours about Porro, the wing back, coming in, and that might kind of give them that bit of a lift because it feels like they need it at the moment.
Yeah.
But with Man City next, I presume you're selling this week, Joe, and I think a lot of people who have him will do. Now seems like a good time.
With the potential double for Manchester United, with Manchester City and Arsenal both with doubles next week, I can't personally look beyond them in terms of my transfers. So Kulusevski, yes, will probably have to make way. But yeah, he's a great differential. If he does score assists, because his ownership's so low, he's such a boost in the rankings there. Next up, Bowen. Now I've singled him out as well because of West Ham. So he's all the forgotten 8 million midfielder. Remember when there was those 8 million midfielders and people went for him, but he was the sort of forgotten man because as West Ham fell by. But he has scored 2 goals in the last match, but he's not on this table because of the scoring the goals, because of the assist potential there. So his expected assist delta is over 0.5, so he should have scored, getting on for nearly assist as well. 7 successful crosses, 11 corners, 8 chances created. This is a bit better, bit better stats here. Are West Ham good now?
No, I don't think they are. I think they played better, but we've got to remember who they were playing against.
Yeah, playing Everton,
wasn't it? And Everton will tend to make most teams look good, at least until they appoint Sean Dyche, and then that might change. But under Lampard, that was the case each week. I think West Ham have got good players. We've seen under David Moyes, they've been a good team that have provided real value for FPL managers before with Bowen and Antonio and some of their backline options, Zuma, players like that. I would want to see a bit more from them before a move. The fixtures aren't great either. So for now, I think they're a good team to monitor because Bowen has proven before that he can do it at this level and return in FPL consistently. But yeah, I think it's kind of let's watch them now and just see how they go over the next few matches and then maybe look further down the line.
Neto's on there. We spoke a bit about him last week, a tiny bit, but yeah, I mean, he's not really assured of a start, but he has had 12 corners. And he's 4.9, so he is an enabler to consider when it looks like he's a regular starter and it looks like Wolves maybe have a double or favourable fixtures.
Yeah, he's coming back from injury and he's not even 100% yet. So I think you're not going to go for Wolves again. I do like the manager. I think Lopetegui will come in and do well for them, but not for now.
Okay. Havertz, our old friend on. So this, when a player is on the goals imminent table and the assists imminent table, this is good because you get 2 bites of the cherry there. So they might assist, they might score, they might do neither. But it all helps. And Havertz there with his 9 chances created on top of being imminent for scoring. He has scored obviously once here, no assists. No successful crosses. That's not what he's about, really. So it's creating chances. How do you think Havertz could get an assist then? Because he's created 9 chances, but he's not crossing at all. So presumably,
it's from layoffs in the box. Yeah. It's from rebounds off the keeper, close range. Because a lot of his shots are close range. You said earlier that all of his shots are inside the box. He's always in and around that 6-yard box. So that's where. Yeah, he's not going to be, and he does pull a little bit deep, but he tends to kind of he tends to pull deep, lay it off, get into the box. Right. So I think, he's got that dual threat, and when those fixtures are good for Chelsea, if they improve with James and Chilwell back and the new players settle, 7.8 million for a player. I think he's the only player that can really play that number 9 role at Chelsea now with Brozier out. So yeah, could be one to watch.
Elise at Crystal Palace, 5.4. Yeah, he's another very under the radar player. Great underlying stats, actually. 8 chances created. He's taken 18 corners. When a player dominates corners in that way, when they're on the pitch, that, to be taken notice of. He scored. He's had 4 successful crosses. Bear in mind, that's getting, that's okay. First week on the table. An interesting under the radar option here. But Crystal Palace, and I don't think Crystal Palace as a team are impressing, but if they get a double soon, could be.
Yeah, maybe. I quite like Olise and I like Eze as well. I think they're both around a similar price.
Yeah.
I'd probably favour Olise actually. A bit more creative, I think. But yeah, we probably need a double. I mean, Palace have been struggling, and they've kind of last 2 games they've really gone like they've gone back to basics to try and keep the goals conceded column down. And they've done that. But yeah, the fixtures are really bad for Palace, I think, for the next few. So probably not now.
Okay, and last name on the table, it's a West Ham player again, Ben Rama. He last season, those that got off, owned him early on, got off to a great start. So we know he's got it in him. He's got the pedigree there. 7 chances created at the moment. No goals, no assists, but 3 successful crosses. So he's crept onto this table. And knowing Ben Rama over the last couple of, I suspect over the next 2 weeks or so, if he doesn't assist, he might stay on this table and might move up it. Could be due. So yeah, definitely 5.6 now. That's pretty cheap, isn't it?
Yeah, I like him when he plays. He's been on some penalties as well, so there's quite a bit to like it. I mean, there's always that nagging doubt because Moyes always seems to pull him up when there's been a bad performance. He finds a way to single him out on this thing. So there's always that worry that he'll be dropped. But when he's on the pitch, I think he offers loads of threat.
Okay, so I mean that's what we're all about here. We're looking for these under the radar gems, and on Twitter and elsewhere. But they're not mentioning these types of players. So we are. So if you fancy a low owned player, go for them. But someone in the chat was actually asking about putting ownership stats on there. There's already quite a lot of stats on this page at the moment, so I haven't done that at the moment, just because we're focusing on those stats that you can't readily look at. If you look at the FPL charts, you can see the ownership stats there. They're all available, but expected assist delta.
Most of them are differentials. Most of them are differentials.
Exactly, so yeah. I mean, apart from obviously Trippier there, there's going to be a hell of a lot of differentials there. So we'll have to manually do that in our heads, but we'll find a way to do that. I don't want to put too many figures on the screen though, because I know that can be a bit distracted, but there's quite a lot here already. Speaking of removing figures off the screen, let's move on to our teams then. So we'll go for you first, Tom. So this is looking at you ahead of Gameweek 22 with a possible double Gameweek 22 in mind, and possibly not, and then still with a double game week in 23 for Arsenal and Manchester City in mind, I imagine. So do you want to run through your team and tell us your thoughts?
Yeah, so just to run through the team at first, I've got Kepa in goal. I've got 3 defenders, Trippier, Gabriel and Shaw, who could potentially have that double. I've still got Salah in midfield alongside De Bruyne, Martinelli and Rashford, who is my current captain. And then up front, got a couple of injury doubts, Martial and Mitrovic alongside Haaland. And then I've got a pretty weak bench of Ward, Andreas, Bueno and Patterson.
Okay, so have you got 2 free transfers?
Yeah, I've got 2 free transfers. I mean, firstly, since game week 17, I've had a really, really bad kind of few weeks. Things just haven't been going. I've made a few bad decisions. I've started out with Foden over Saka. I brought in an injured or a potentially injured Martial. I probably held Salah and Darwin a bit too long as well. And I think I was at 88k when I came back, and I've dropped to about 300k. So there's been a big drop off. But then I'm probably only like 30 points off where I would like to be, which is where I was, which shows you that the ranks are quite condensed. I haven't played a triple captain in that time. I think quite a few people have, and I know that didn't come off. It didn't come off as maybe spectacularly as some would want, but it was still an additional 8 points, which
I'll take that
on me. Exactly. So I'm kind of looking at this team with 2 free transfers, and I still feel like I'm in a pretty good place. I think I can get that back.
Okay.
So if we get this double this week, I'm potentially looking at Salah and Martial out. Fernandez and Nketiah in.
Wow. Okay. That would be
So
ideal because that would Gameweek 23 Arsenal double already in
yeah,
place.
so that would give me Gabriel Martinelli and Martial for that. It would give me De Bruyne and Haaland from City, and it would also give me that one free transfer going into Game Week 23 to add a third City player. And that could either be John Stones at the back for Patterson, or I could even look to bring in Riyad Mahrez for one of the current players that are in that midfield. It would probably have to be Fernandez, looking at the way that midfield sets up. So I'm not quite sure yet. Triple City attack maybe. And then the other big thing which I'm considering is that triple captainship, and do I want to play it on Rashford this week if he gets that double? And I am strongly considering that because I think I prefer it to Haaland in 23.
That shows the benefit, doesn't it, of saving a transfer? Because you look at this scene now and you describe, how much you've gone down the rankings and you've got players like Salah and you see all those flags on there, all the colours of the flags in your team, orange and yellows and reds. And then you say how you're going to use those two free transfers, and suddenly it looks exceptional for the next two game weeks.
Yeah, no, I think we'll be in a pretty good place. That's what I said earlier, and it allows me then to keep that third City spot open for that, and I can make that decision a day before the next game week starts in 23. But let's see what happens with you. We want United to beat Reading, or I certainly do, and I want Leeds to get past their tie as well, and I want this double because then I think I'll be in a reasonable position to start clawing back a bit of ground. So.
Okay. Let's go for the nuclear option. There is no double game week. Say Reading draw their cup tie. So what do you think? What would you do if there's no double?
Yes. So for me, Salah's a really difficult one because it makes absolute sense to sell him if there's a double. If there's not, I know Liverpool aren't playing particularly well at the moment, but it's still Salah. So you think, well, look, I could switch him for Saka. Yeah. Saka's at Everton, set me up well for the double. But then you're saying, well, who's got the most potential this week, Salah or Saka? It's probably Saka, but it's not under no-brainer that it is when I'm saying selling Salah for Fernandez. That might be something that I look at. If it's a single, I'd probably go Martial to Nketiah. I think that's probably the one transfer, and then maybe save the two for the week after. But I'm counting on that double coming through.
Okay. Yes. Before we get to my team, just to remind everyone to like and subscribe, but also those in the live chat as well. Get your questions in now because I'll look at them. I'll better scroll up while I'm talking about my team after that, and we get there. So do put your questions in from now, and then we can start looking at those initial ones after I looked at my team. So. Tom, my team is in a similar position as yours, similar issues going on. There's players I definitely want to remove, and there's players I definitely want, and I've got the double game weeks in mind as well. So I've got a 3-4-3. I'll run through it now and then describe what I'm going to do. I've got Kepa in goal against Fulham, Trippier, Shaw, who could have a double, Ben White against Everton, and then I've got Rashford, who is my captain if he's playing Crystal Palace and Leicester at home. So if there's a double, De Bruyne, Martinelli, Kulusevski, who's playing Manchester City. I've got Mitrovic, who's flagged for possible injury, Haaland and Kane. And on my bench, I've got Danny Ward, the non-playing Matt Doherty, which is annoying, Andreas and Patterson, who is injured, but could be back in a couple of 2 or 3 weeks, hopefully. Similar to yours, as in it doesn't look great, but I do have 2 free transfers, so it can look better.
That's all it will take. Yeah.
I'm looking at, so let's say there's a double game week. So say Manchester City. I definitely want Bruno Fernandes. I definitely don't want Kulusevski. So I need to find an enabler. So, in an ideal world, because you're moving Salah down, you can get Nketiah and Fernandes. I can't do that. I've got to go budget really. But luckily the other team is Leeds, and Nonto is looking rather good for Leeds, and a player I'm happy to play, happy to bench, but in a double I think he's a good option. So I'd be looking at Kulusevski and Mitrovic out to Nonto and Bruno Fernandes. But I need all of you lot here watching, and I need you all to stop blooming making transfers, because I had 0.3 in the bank for that. thanks to Fernandes going up, Mitrovic going down, I've now got 0.1. So I can afford one more price change, and then I'm out for that. So I would then have to think of another option, and I might
Ferguson maybe.
I might go. Yeah, I mean, I might look to do something like get Martinez in as a Manchester, just a single transfer, ignore Fernandes and get Martinez, because Crystal Palace and Leeds at home is a great fixture for Manchester United defenders, and their defence is great. So he could easily get me somewhere between 15 to 20 points, Martinez, which is what I would hope for Fernandes. So I would go for that option, I think, because Ferguson at Brighton could be good, but then Brighton, that's me thinking far ahead. Game week 25, Brighton.
Yeah, but you probably do have to consider that, because you've got a non-playing Doherty in there.
Yeah.
You've got Patterson, who might be back, but we don't know where he's at in his recovery at the moment. Yeah. So then if you bring another player, you've already got Trippier, haven't you?
Yeah, and
you can
Manchester
have
United.
You can have 3 United as well. So it's just something you kind of need. Everybody's in the same position, aren't they, Joe? We all need to sit down with paper and the ticker and just work out worst case scenario where it's going to leave you, because you don't want to be scrambling around taking -4s and -8s in 25 in what could be a low scoring week anyway.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean that's the issue. I mean, I've when people make transfers, they sort of. I mean, we've had some other people on the show talking about sort of initial transfers and things. I know FPL Raptor has been on Meet the Manager before to talk about those initial transfers. And we had Craigie as well, who's been doing these books that you can do, sort of colouring in. Well, I colour them in anyway. These transfer planner books that you can do and colour in the shirts and things for each game week, and you sort of have initial transfer in mind. And as soon as this double game was announced, and I looked at the prices and I saw that I had a tiny bit in the bank to do it, my immediate thing was Mitrovic, Kulusevski out, Fernandes and Nonto. That was it, and I have not wavered for that. Only really injuries would do that, and everyone stop blooming making transfers so I can afford it. But if I can't, then I'll have to come up with another plan there. And
you can't pull the trick. You can't even pull the trigger early on those moves, because if the double doesn't happen, then you're not going to want Fernandes probably anyway. Yeah. So it's a difficult one.
Yeah, so I might go for that Brighton defender. I might just use one transfer and move Doherty on to Martinez, and I think I'll get points from that. And I think it's boring. It's not as sexy as Bruno Fernandes, but it's I think that would be a move there.
If you get a clean sheet out of one of those fixtures, then it'll probably be okay.
So I'll get another doubler there. So if there is no double game week, that's simple. Mitrovic to Nketiah. I'll just do that. I think that's just such a good move, because I'll be setting myself up for the future for game week 23, and that's why I'm looking at game week 23 really. So if I've still got the Fernandes, Nonto. What I'll be looking at in game week 23 is moving Fernandes on immediately. I'll only have him for 1 week, and I will immediately move him in for Saka. And then I would possibly just leave it at that and ignore a third Man City. Yeah. Or if I want to take a hit, I will use a hit to get either, as you were talking about, Mahrez or Stones. I took a hit last game week, game week 20. No, for game week 20, I took a hit. There was a double game week. Manchester City were involved, and I shot up then in the rankings quite far up. So I was on the edge of the top 100k. Dipped a bit last week, about 120k at the moment. But it shows that hits can pay off. I don't have a problem with a hit in a double game week.
And I think the good thing is with City, you look at their fixtures to follow the double, and they're very, very good. So if you do need to take a -4. It's not like you're going to be looking to get that player out the week after. They might not play because it's Pep, but if he does, they've got good fixtures. So I think it's Forest and Bournemouth back to back after.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the way I'm looking at it, game week 22 and 23 in a sort of a fixture block. So I'm not really, I'm looking at that in terms of any transfer I make is over those two, and I'm factoring Arsenal, factoring Man City, factoring Manchester United if they double, which they should do. I mean, I'm partly, even if there is a double, and even if I get priced out and Fernandez, I'm starting to think that Martinez could be a really good option, because it would solve the Doherty problem. Immediately get rid of it. I'm quite happy to play Kulusevski against Manchester City this week, and then the following week I just move him on. I will have 2 free transfers the following week, so I can take my pick.
Yeah, well, it's kind of it's focusing on the weakest area of your team with the Doherty transfer, isn't it? Which sometimes can be advised. Sometimes you neglect those players, but if he's not playing, there's a new Spurs right wing back on the way.
Yeah,
so yeah. Why.
As Lennox is saying in the live chat here, recommending Ferguson as well. As we were saying earlier, there is the blank game week for Brighton in Gameweek 25, but that's Gameweek 25. I've got 2 or 3 weeks to go over there and across that bridge when it comes to it, and gradually move out dodgy players. But yeah, if I'm looking at 3-5-2, if I'm going with Haaland, Kane, and looking at sort of a 3-4-3, 3-5-2 hybrid. I'm quite minded to go there. So yeah, it wouldn't be the end of the world to end up with Brighton's young teenage sensation in goal. So I wouldn't mind.
Well, they got good fixtures as well, Brighton, haven't they? They got Bournemouth and then Palace and Fulham before 25. And you've got 3 transfers after this week, haven't you? Or potentially 4 if you hold one. So just work it out.
It's not the end of the world.
Might be doable.
Yeah, might be doable because a lot of people have been in a similar situation with me. They're looking at the double game week, so they're probably not, if they haven't got Matoma or March or a Brighton midfielder, they're probably not going to go there. But they might do. But they're probably not going to go there. They're going to prioritise Arsenal, for example. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I will just go Ferguson anyway. What the hell? Because Brighton are at home to Bournemouth, and that says goals. lots and lots of goals.
Danny Welbeck goals.
Danny Welbeck. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Last 10-minute hat trick for the young.
I think Ferguson. Seriously, I think Ferguson has probably earned a start after that, hasn't he? So ahead of Welbeck.
Yeah. I mean, I can't. Welbeck's great, but he gets injured. So. Okay, so let's have a look at the live chat. So we want some questions. So hopefully you've got some questions for us here before we wrap up. So I'll go scroll up a bit and then see where we go. Right, okay. Tunji says, what do I plan to do with Doherty? So let's rephrase that for everyone. Those that have Doherty, what do you do? It's not a priority to remove Doherty, I would say, because you can bench him because he's that cheap. But it will become a priority when you've got blank game weeks coming and you don't want to use a free hit for it. And so, yeah, he's a short-term bench, long-term look to move. But yeah, that's the plan. If you're, I think Martinez at Manchester United, if you are looking for a third Manchester United player, could be an option. But yeah, triple. Oh, this is a question for you, Tom. Really, so triple captain from Nassim. Triple captain could be worth it for Manchester United, Bruno or Rashford this week. What do you think? So you are considering that Rashford and maybe Fernandez.
Yeah, it's something I've looked at. I mean, Rashford's in a great moment. He looks so confident, doesn't he? Every week, he's got good numbers to back it up. We did have a bit of a debate on site the other day. I said he wasn't on penalties, and then a few United fans popped up and said, well, he took the last one when Fernandez was on the pitch. But then there seemed to be some were saying, well, Fernandez gave him that because he was on a run and the game was already won at that point. And then Martial wasn't on the pitch. Martial isn't on the pitch very often, but I think there's certainly some doubt. I like my triple captains to be on penalties, but I'm not sure if Rashford is. So, but apart from that, the games look really good. I mean, Palace at home and Leeds at home. It's a really good double, isn't it? The other option is to look at Haaland in 23, but Villa at home and then Arsenal away. It's that second fixture. I mean, it's Haaland, of course, he can do it against anybody, but I don't really like that second fixture. So at the moment, I'd probably say I'm 60-40 to play it with Rashford. And I would definitely play it on Rashford instead of Fernandez because I just don't think Fernandez has got that goal threat at the moment. I know he's scored a couple, but if you look at his underlyings, I think Neil's putting a piece out on the site which has really gone in depth on it. But I'm just not, it's more about, it's a bit like De Bruyne, it's about the creativity, it's about the assists this year. And I want my triple captain to have more goal threat. So at the moment, yeah, I can completely see why people are looking at Rashford. I think it could be good if they do get that double.
Yeah, I mean, I've already used my triple captain on Haaland in the week before he scored a hat trick. I'm still, I would do the same again, and I think the best time for a triple captain is now rather than later. I think the other chips will be better later to use. You can only use one chip a week, and I think that's the key really. So I think you are exactly right. And Rashford, if I hadn't have used my triple captain, I would be using it on Rashford because he looks like he's being protected. He was taken off in 60 minutes in the cup.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, the injury, there is a bit of an, you don't want your triple captain going down injured like Sadio Mane did a few years back. And you can't control these things, but Rashford does pick up niggles, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think all in all, I think that the pros far outweigh the cons kind of thing with Rashford. So yeah, I'm considering it.
Yeah, definitely. I think so as well. I think it's because he's got goals and assists in him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Haaland is still a good option the following week if you want to go there, or indeed an Arsenal asset. Saka.
Yeah, and the timing of the City games, I looked into it. I think Haaland, you'll get 2 starts out of them as well, which you said there, Joe, it's good to play it now. That might not be the case later on in the season. Yeah. We might want to prioritise bench boosts, another trick, free hits over it in the future. So yeah, I do like the idea of playing it. I think I played it around this time last year. I think what was Salah was like 24, 25, wasn't he, when he had Norwich and Leeds? I played it then. So yeah, I'm kind of okay with playing it early.
That question there was from a variety of people. But I've noticed Philip Appleby is amongst those that asked that question. Melv has asked about. We've sort of addressed this as well, but if you wanted to add anything more to it, with Manchester United and Newcastle potentially having a blank coming up as well, Gameweek 25. That's to do with the being in the League Cup final, which we think they both will be, but they might not be.
And if they do, it affects Brighton and Brentford too, if those two do make it. So if you've got Tony as well, something to think about.
So, I mean, the question really is, obviously, do we need to be aware of tripling up? So, I mean, I've only got Trippier, but if I had more Newcastle, I'd probably be looking to start to move off, possibly.
Yeah, you can house 3 of them, can't you, on your bench? So I think the way it's looking at the moment, that's probably Trippier, Shaw, and Rashford on your bench in 25.
Yeah, same for me.
You're probably going to have to get rid of everybody else that you own before that. You could play with 10 that week. But,
which is why if I got Fernandes, I would move him out because he's really only for the double, because he's got a blank. It sort of negates getting him for a double. That's what I would be looking at as well. Yeah, you do have to keep an eye on that as well. I do think if you've got triple Newcastle at the moment, that could be an issue down the line if you are looking to also triple up on Manchester United.
I mean, Newcastle, before that potential blank, they play Liverpool, and after they play Man City. So Gameweek 24 looks like the ideal time to take after they've played Bournemouth.
Okay.
You might have to sell before, but that would be the ideal time.
Okay. Oh, just note, Pep Talk also is in the live chat, and he also asked the same question as Philip there. So we've answered that about the triple captain there. Michael Scott, fresh from the office, is asking for our thoughts on losing Kane for 22-23 for this upcoming period to Nketiah to fund removing Almiron to Bruno Fernandes. It's quite specific for him, but the notion there is having Kane, so people like me, having Kane detrimental to flexibility, because what he's describing there is he's removing having too many Newcastle players option. He's also getting in a double game week player in 23 and one in 22 as well. And then looking at getting Kane back again when all that's over. That is an option, isn't it?
Yeah, I think if I own Kane, I'd give it serious thought to selling, which sounds crazy because he is playing, he's returning, and you don't want to take players out who are so consistent. But you look at the fixture, they've got City this week, and it's just because of the way these doubles have fallen. There's a lot of money tied up on him, and so you might want to take him out, downgrade him. There's some great cheaper forward options at the moment, and then that would allow you to go with Fernandes, who I don't think is essential. I don't think he is for this, but I do think that he looks like a very good option.
Okay. Yeah, another question. It's a similar question there about Kane. Is my Pep Talk again asks, is Martial ever going to be fit? Or is he the new Nathan Ferguson? Fans of Team Talk on a Friday with myself and as with Neil will know that we mention Nathan Ferguson all the time because he's never fit. Well, I didn't believe he exists. But yeah, Martial, you knew what you were getting into with Martial. You knew he's got fitness problems.
Yeah, looking back, it was a stupid transfer. It was ahead of the double. I had 6.8 million to spend on a forward, so I couldn't even reach Tony if I wanted him. And it was ahead of this double, and Ten Hag's press conference said, look, my reading of it was he wasn't going to play in the Manchester derby. He would play against Palace. That was the fixture I prefer him for. He plays half an hour against City, breaks down, and then he's never to be seen again. Which kind of sums up the past few weeks for me. I knew it was a risk, and it backfired spectacularly. I mean, Ten Hag loves him. He only said this week, United are a better team with him playing. But now he's got another option in Weghorst, who is playing very well as well. I thought he did very well against Forest. I think his hold-up play was excellent. It's just going to be managed minutes, isn't it? He's going to be very careful with Martial, and I think that's why, even if Ten Hag comes out and says he's fit for the double, I think I've got to sell him. So I don't think he'll start both games.
So there's a couple of questions here that I'll sort of put together. Govinda asked, would you consider Nonto for the double game week as well? I mean, there was another question earlier around Rodrigo as well, whether Rodrigo is a good option as well. So it's looking at that, sort of looking at a Leeds enabler to fund, I presume, a Manchester United double game week player. I've already given my thoughts on Onto. Yes, I think he's my top choice, absolutely top choice enabler. He passes the eye test. He's got the underlying stats. He's scored. He can do it. He can. I mean, no disrespect to Leeds, he'll be at a bigger club, or perhaps Leeds will become that bigger club, and he'll just stay there whilst Leeds are getting better. But yeah, he's really good. Rodrigo though, I'm not keen.
No, I like Gonto because I think he's at that price point, isn't he, where he can easily sit on your bench when they play Man United the week after. He's 5 million. He's kind of that perfect enabler to play a 3-5-2. Rodrigo, the only concern is Bamford's coming back. And I think that we could see some early subs. Where does he fit into that team? Now Gonto's emerged, Sinistera's back as well. They've got Harrison, they've got Aronson, they've got the new club record signing who's come in the forward as well. So if it's not working, Marsh has options now on the bench to mix it up, and that could mean reduced minutes. And yeah, Rodrigo's he's already scored 10 Premier League goals or something like that this year, hasn't he? He's got the pedigree to do it. But I would just worry now, and it's hard to fit a player like Rodrigo in because of the amount of options in midfield at the moment from City, from Arsenal, from Man United, the teams which you want to back.
Yeah, because you've got to think of the positions where when you're thinking, right, I want a cheap striker. Got Ferguson at Brighton, Nonto at Leeds. Then you're really struggling. Then you've got to move up to your Nketiahs. You've got to move up $1 million and $1.5 million. But yeah, boy, we just mentioned all the midfielders we want, and none of them are Rodrigo. So tells you the answer.
It's hard to get him in. If you're playing a 5, there might be a 5-man midfield. There might be a bit of potential, but I do think you're going to see 70. Even if he starts, I think you're going to see 70th minute withdrawals potentially earlier if it's not going well for Leeds.
Sound Accents asks, Rico Lewis, a transfer or keep for game week 23? What do we think?
I would probably be tempted to bench him this week and then play him in the double and hope that you get one of those 2 games out of it, because Walker and Cancelo, certainly Cancelo, seem out of favour at the moment, don't they? So like the right back role, Pep's spoken glowingly about him at the moment. If you don't want a third player out, like say if you've got De Bruyne and Haaland, if you're happy with not having Mahrez, or you're not happy, if you only want one City midfielder and Haaland, then I'd probably keep him, to be honest, and just hope that maybe you get that Villa game.
I would as well. It's like you've sort of you've chosen your Manchester City player there, and because there is so much rotation at the moment, you just stick with whatever you've got. Like if I had whatever Manchester City defender I'd had, I would not be wasting a transfer at the moment, swapping him to another one, because
it's
we've talked about
Nathan
John
Ake.
Stones, but then John Stones could easily
Yeah,
miss next two. Who knows?
yeah, and a lot of people bought in Nathan Ake, didn't they? And he's obviously been benched recently. And so what you might get is a lot of them just playing one game each
Yeah.
anyway during the double. So I think Stones is the one I've been most confident about. But I think if you own Lewis now, I think he's at a really good price. He enables you to push your money into other areas, and you might get a game out of him.
Yeah, I think so as well. And he does. He has a role in the team that no one else fulfills in terms of helping out Rodri in midfield. And it isn't really another player they've got like that at the moment.
Right. True. Yeah.
Final question. I'm going to wrap up now. Is from I can't even pronounce that. It's spelled Ljubomir. I don't know. Anyway, you, kind sir, for asking a question. Almiron, keep or sell? What do you think?
Yeah, I ran a piece on Almiron, I think, prior to the last game week. And I said, I don't think you need to be too hasty, but I think that, 4 blanks in a row now, bearing in mind that it looks like Newcastle are going to probably blank in 25. I think he's a fine sell. It wouldn't surprise me if he popped up with a goal in the next 2 games, but against West Ham and Bournemouth. But I think even if you sell him now and he scores that goal, you're doing it for, probably the right reasons. If you're bringing a double game week player, even better, like an Odegaard or something like that. So I think he's fine to sell, but then, it wouldn't surprise me given the fixtures if he gets something over the next couple.
Okay, and thanks Tom, and thanks everyone that has joined us in the live chat as well. Thanks to those that are listening and watching later as well. Do wish you well for game week 22, and also wish you well for whatever it may be. Maybe a double game week, it may not, but hopefully we've given you some options to think about, especially if you're like me and price changes might change your plans. It does pay to have sort of a plan B and a plan C and a plan D, but I'm okay with those, and hope your plans are going well, and see you again ahead of game week 23. Tom, good luck with your game week as well, and see you soon.
Thanks, Joe.